Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for joining me here at the Dolphin Sleeper YouTube channel. I am your host, Michael Leva, with another show to go through all the big news. And there's a lot of news from the past few days happening in the world of the Miami Dolphins. Please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel here at the Sleeper Miami Dolphins YouTube channel. Put up comments down below if there's any topics you want me to talk about. And if you're on Twitter or X, please be sure to be following us at Sleeper Miami. So, busy week of news. On Tuesday, the rookies reported to training camp. And next Tuesday, July 28th, the veterans will report to training camp, and everyone will be in camp. And really, things start to get underway probably next Wednesday and the 29th, that first day when everyone's there. It's more of a, weight check and just sort of to talk about the plans of how this training camp's going to work and stuff like that. So, we're close. We are really close, and the rookies are already in camp. And pretty much since we are, in training camp on some level, there's a lot of news. So earlier this week, the Miami Dolphins finally got a contract extension done with their best player on defense. It was expected, although it took a little bit longer than expected. Jordyn Brooks signed a 3-year contract extension worth $51.3 million with $35 million fully guaranteed. He was about to play on the final year of his deal, and now he is locked up, and he will be in Miami for the foreseeable future. There was another report that was very interesting, though. NFL insider Jordan Schultz reported that Miami, this whole offseason, had received multiple trade offers for Jordyn Brooks, but they rejected them all because apparently none of the offers were good enough for Miami to part with Brooks. So Jordyn Brooks is now in Miami. Like I said, for the foreseeable future here, next few years. And, Brooks was outstanding last year in 2025 for the Miami Dolphins. He was named first team All-Pro. He led the NFL in tackles with 183, 3.5 sacks. He was, in a season that wasn't great for Miami last year, he was the shining star on that side of the ball. No matter how bad some weeks were as a team overall, where they didn't look good or they didn't play well, Jordyn Brooks played at a high level week in and week out. You can say at this point right now in his career, he is an elite linebacker. That is not a false statement. And, the Miami Dolphins got him at a team-friendly deal, roughly $17 million per year, $35 million fully guaranteed here. They got him at a team-friendly deal. They didn't have to overpay to keep him. So this is a win-win for the Miami Dolphins. And you look at that side of the ball now, this final piece of the puzzle. He won't be moved. He will be here this full season. You look at that side of the ball. The secondary is a mess, and we're going to talk about that soon. They got a lot of injuries there. The line, Zach Sealer ain't getting any younger. Kenneth Grant did not play well last year as a rookie. He didn't play like he went pick number 13, the 13th pick of the draft. Jordan Phillips was, okay for a rookie. Nothing special. The linebacker group is really going to need to overachieve. You have, like I said, Jordyn Brooks, who's elite, Darrell, Dotson, who's an okay NFL linebacker, just okay. And you got to keep your fingers crossed that rookie second-round pick Jacob Rodriguez lives up to the hype. Because if he lives up to the hype with him, Tyrell Dotson, and Jordyn Brooks, that linebacker group is going to be the heart and soul of that side of the ball. Because the damn sure ain't going to be the secondary, and it won't be the pass rush because it's non-existent, and it won't be the line either. So we're going to need that linebacker group this year to overexceed for that side of the ball to play well. And we'll see how that sort of plays out. And the other thing with this big story, yes, Jordyn Brooks is here. He's not going anywhere. John Eric Sullivan has only been on the job here since January. And, again, they haven't played a game yet. None of his rookies have played in a real game, so who knows if they're any good. He had 13 picks. We're hoping at least half of them are good, but we don't know. This guy has lived up to everything he said since he took the job. This is not Chris Greer. This is not Jeff Ireland. This is not Dennis Hickey. This is a guy who's come in here with a plan. He's executed the plan. And now as fans of the team, you got to hope that the plan works. We don't know if it'll work, and that's the most important part. But this guy's not out there lying to the media, throwing smoke screens, not answering questions, trying to trick people, trying to mislead people. He's just out there. Here's what I want to do. I'm just being honest, and here's what I'm going to try to do. And that's it. And everything he said, months ago, we're going to try to get extensions done with Achane, Aaron Brewer, and Brooks in the summer. Well, all three got done in the summer. He went to the draft going, we have a lot of picks. I want more. What do? He traded down and he got more. So he said that they had to get larger at some positions, like on the offensive line and at wide receiver. He drafted a very big offensive lineman in the top round 1, and he drafted 3 wide receivers, and a couple of them are very big. So, I mean, everything this guy said, he's lived up to. Even with Waddle, he goes, I don't want to trade him, but if someone makes me the right offer, I'll trade him. Guess what? He got the right offer from the Denver Broncos. So Sullivan talks the talk. He walks the walk. Again, I don't know how good he'll be, but I think he's off to as good a first start in an offseason that a rookie GM can have. So kudos to him. In other news, the Miami Dolphins put rookie third-round pick Chris Bell on the NFL I list, meaning he will not be participating in training camp here until he's healthy. Not a shock. He tore his ACL playing for Louisville in college last year in late November. I think it was November 28th to be exact. I might be wrong on the date, but it was late November. He wasn't, and if he wasn't hurt, he probably would have been picked in round 1 or at the top of round 2 of the draft. Miami gets him in round 3, which was a steal. So if you're the Dolphins here, you don't want to rush him back because what's the point? It's not like they need him week 1. It's not like they're going to head into this season, fighting for a Super Bowl and stuff. Bring him along slowly. He'll play when he's healthy. Maybe he won't play this year because by the time he's healthy, maybe it's not till October or November, and they're like, this season's not going the way we wanted. We're not going to risk this kid out there in meaningless games. So we'll see. I think he will play some this year because I think they're going to want him to get his feet wet a little bit. So maybe he only plays the last 4 or 5 games of the year. We'll see. I don't know. But Chris Bell is going to start the year on the NFL I list. Now, if he doesn't come off that list in training camp, that means he must miss at least the first 4 games of the regular season. Again, he could miss more. But if he's still on that NFL I list at the end of training camp and after final cuts, that means he must miss the first 4 games of the regular season. But again, I think he's going to miss more, so we'll see. Well, that's just something to keep an eye on. That's not really a shock either. The one that's a little bit more surprising, 2 other guys were placed on PUP. Now, here's the difference. The NFL I list and PUP are the same thing. But since Chris Bell was hurt in college because he wasn't in the NFL last year, he goes on the NFL I list because he's not an active player in the NFL yet. Storm Duck, the cornerback, and the other cornerback they signed this offseason, Darrell Baker Jr., since they are NFL players, they go on PUP. Same thing, meaning they cannot practice in training camp until they're cleared. And once they're cleared, then they can practice. And at the end of training camp final cuts, if they're still on PUP, they must miss the first 4 games of the regular season at least. So same meaning, just 2 different lists off semantics. Here's why this one's concerning. You look at the Miami Dolphins roster, the 2 weakest areas on the team are the secondary and the pass rush. And you just placed 2 cornerbacks who you expect to be contributors this year on the PUP list. Now, again, it's late July. There's a long way to go. And there's no word on how serious these injuries are. I know Storm Duck got hurt with his knee last year. It hasn't been a year yet, but it's probably 8-9 months. You would hope he might be ready by the end of training camp. I don't know. And for Darrell Baker Jr., look, they signed him in like March or so. I don't even know what his injury is, and they haven't said what it is. I'm sure when Jeff Hafley speaks to the media here next week, he might share. I don't know. If it was Mike McDaniel, he wouldn't share. I think Jeff Hafley might share what the injury is. So I'm sure we'll find out. Hopefully it's not something too serious and they won't be out long because they need as many bodies in that secondary that are healthy. They need competition because none of the guys are actually like superstars and they got to have the best guys on the field. So they need as many options as possible. So those are like the injuries heading into camp. Compared to previous years, it's actually not that much. Chris Bell's not even a surprise. And when it comes to the secondary, it's a little worrying just because that position group is so bad. In other news this week, I spoke last week on my show here at Sleeper about the uniforms and how there's rumor and innuendo that the Miami Dolphins have submitted for a uniform change in 2027. No new information on that. But this week, the Miami Dolphins, like many other teams, announced their uniform schedule of where they're going to wear alternate uniforms this upcoming season. And they announced that they will wear their throwback uniforms with the throwback logo week 14 in December at home when they play the Chicago Bears at Hard Rock Stadium. That's going to be the throwback week where they wear the throwback uniform, the throwback logo on the helmet. So if you're going to that game week 14 versus Chicago Bears, that's when they will wear the throwback uniforms. They also announced a few weeks later, week 17, when they host the Buffalo Bills in the final home game of the year, they will wear the Rivalries uniform. Now, here's the deal with the Rivalries uniform. It's not black. It's a deep, deep navy blue, but it's black, really. Let's not lie. It's black, essentially. They're going to be wearing this at 1 o'clock. Now, 1 o'clock in Miami in January is a lot different than 1 o'clock in Miami in September. So it won't be as hot. And they can't wear it in a primetime game because, spoiler, the Miami Dolphins don't have a primetime game this year because no one expects them to be any good. So they had to wear it for a 1 o'clock game, and they're going to wear it 1 o'clock versus the Bills. And the rule for these rivalries is it's a slow rollout. So last year, the AFC East, and who was it? Was it the NFC West? I can't remember. It was the AFC East, I think the NFC West. They were the first two to actually have to wear rivalries uniforms. So 4 teams in the AFC East, 4 teams in the NFC West. They have to wear rivalries. This year, 2 more divisions are going to wear rivalries. So you're going to have 16 teams total wearing them for at least 1 week. Now, once you wear these for 4 years, you can never wear them again. So this is year 2 for the Dolphins. So last year they wore them versus the Jets on that Monday night game. This year you're going to wear them week 17 versus the Bills. And then after this year, they'll wear them 1 week in 2027, 1 week in 2028, and they're never going to wear them again. And that's like that for every team. You wear them 4 times, and you must wear them versus a team inside your own division. If I'm guessing the Dolphins, they wore them last year versus the Jets, this year versus the Bills, probably next year, probably versus the Patriots, and then that final year they'll wear it against whoever. So that's how the rivalries uniforms will work. I know a lot of fans liked them. Some fans were not a big fan of them. I was kind of lukewarm on it. But yeah, that's what the Miami Dolphins will do. And they'll wear the rivalries uniforms week 17 versus the Bills at Hard Rock Stadium, final home game of the year. Last topic I want to talk about is the Miami Dolphins quarterback room. And there's been a lot of discussion about this here as we're getting closer to camp. And it's centered around like the room overall, Malik Willis, how good is he? What's he going to do this year? Pure speculation at this point. But I've seen a wide range of opinions. I've seen some people think he's going to be sensational and he's going to be a huge upgrade over Tua. That doesn't mean Miami will win a lot of games, but he's going to be very, very good. And I've seen some people say, well, if you're looking at all 32 NFL quarterbacks, he's still a guy who's ranked like 25th, 26th out of 32 quarterbacks. Don't expect much, especially with not a lot of wide receiver help. So I want to dive into this here real quick. First thing before I get into the current room, there is news a little bit here. Next week, I don't know which day yet, the Miami Dolphins are going to bring in Jack Plummer, who was the quarterback of a UFL team in Orlando, and he was the UFL MVP this past year. And he's going to get a workout with the Dolphins, and he's also working out with San Francisco next week. So he's looking to get a contract with an NFL team. Looks like to be either San Francisco or Miami. We'll see how those workouts go, I guess. But he was the UFL MVP. He had 17 passing touchdowns, only 1 interception last season. He had 2 rushing touchdowns as well, and he threw for 2,188 yards. I think they only played 10 games. I think in UFL it's only 10 games, but he was the UFL MVP. And look, can't hurt. It's just a workout. And if they sign him, that probably means the end of either Cam Miller or Mark Gronkowski, who are the other 2 quarterbacks on this roster aside from Quinn Ewers and Malik Willis. He'd probably take one of their spots. And it's just a Miami Dolphins sort of kicking the tires here on this kid. Now, look, because of the last name, I've had people reach out to me. Is he the son of Jake Plummer, the former NFL quarterback in Arizona? No, he's not. No relation. Just have the same last name and they play the same position. No relation to Jake Plummer. But Jack Plummer, we'll see. And again, if you're the Dolphins, I don't think it hurts because Willis, I think he's an upgrade over Tua, but he's still a big question mark on how good is he truly. Quinn Ewers last year in limited time was okay. I know some fans like fell in love with him. I didn't. He was fine. Not awful, not great, just like there. And you got guys like Cam Miller and Mark Gronkowski. We'll see. They're just guys. So Jack Plummer gets a workout. Now, what sort of spearheaded this conversation, and it's been out there about the Miami Dolphins quarterback room. For those of you who don't know, I own and operate DolphinsTalk.com. We have a podcast, and this past Wednesday night, we had the Fish Tank podcast, which is part of our network, with Seth Levitt, OJ McDuffie, and they had on Chris Perkins of the Sun Sentinel, who covers the Dolphins. I was on as well. And Chris Perkins believes, and he's not necessarily wrong, that in this modern NFL, as the league has changed over the years, because for years, you needed Tom Brady, you needed Peyton Manning, you needed the elite of the elite quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl, or at least, find your way to a Super Bowl. You needed, like a Roethlisberger, like a surefire Hall of Famer who was like a top 2 or 3 quarterback. Not so much in the modern era. The league is sort of changing a bit. Yes, if you have Pat Mahomes, you're going to probably be in the mix a lot and stuff like that. But, we've seen Jalen Hurts win a Super Bowl. He's been in 2. We've seen last year Sam Darnold win a Super Bowl. You don't need the elite quarterback anymore to win Super Bowls. You just need a quarterback who's, average to above average, and just have a strong team around him, a strong running game, have a strong pass rush, have just a strong team around him. And you can win that way. And his point was, look at the current ESPN list of top 10 quarterbacks. This was the ESPN list where they surveyed 70 NFL executive scouts and coaches and had them rank the quarterbacks. The top 10 list, only 2 of them have actually won Super Bowls. And here's the list of top 10. Josh Allen, never been to a Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes, number 2, won multiple Super Bowls. Matthew Stafford, number 3, won multiple Super Bowls. Number 4, Joe Burrow. He went to a Super Bowl, lost. Number 5, Lamar Jackson, never went to a Super Bowl. Number 6, Prescott, never went to a Super Bowl. Number 7, Herbert, never went to a Super Bowl. Number 8, Drake May, went to a Super Bowl, lost. Number 9, Jared Goff, went to a Super Bowl, lost. And number 10, Caleb Williams, never went to a Super Bowl. So only 2 names in the top 10 have actually won a Super Bowl. You go to the honorable mention list, Sam Darnold won a Super Bowl. Hurts won a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy went there and lost. You got guys like Mayfield, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence as well on that list of the honorable mentions. So the point is, you got just as many people in the honorable mentions who've won Super Bowls as those in the top 10 list. So his point was, you don't need to chase the superstar quarterback. You can win with Malik Willis if he plays well, as long as you put the right team around him. Now, obviously, that's not this year. But if Willis plays well and they still lose, if you're the Dolphins, you don't need to take a quarterback in round 1 next year. The draft is kind of the point. Now, as we sort of spoke about on the show, we'll see if that's the case. Because if Willis plays well, but they still have a top 3 pick, and you got, Arch Manning or Dante Moore staring at you, they can say to their blue in the face, we're not, we like Willis, he played well. They still might take a quarterback that has much more upside, who has a chance to be a superstar on another level than a Willis. We'll see how that plays out. If that does happen, I don't know. But you can make a case that they shouldn't, that they should take that pick and, take a good pass rusher. They need all the help there. Take a top cornerback. They need help there. Take, an elite wide receiver. They need help there. Or take the pick, trade down, and just get a stockpile of more picks and, load up your roster that way. And obviously that's a long ways away, and we don't know where they're going to be picking. But the point is, you don't necessarily need that superstar quarterback to win in the NFL, because look at, and it kind of correlates to the NBA. For years in the NBA, you had to have a super team. 3 or 4 stars all had to go to one team, load up that roster. That's how we're going to win a ring. Look at what the NBA sort of transitioned to now. The last 8 years, you've had 8 new champions, not the same team twice. And they got 1 or 2 guys on a team who are stars, and then you just load up the rest of the roster with a lot of depth and a lot of quality players. Only 1 or 2 superstars. You don't need 4. You don't need a super team. And that league has evolved to that. The NFL might be evolving to, you can't have that quarterback take up 25% of your salary cap to where the rest of your roster is like weak or not very good because you just don't have the money to fill out the roster. It's okay to have like an average quarterback who's just not going to mess it up and use the rest of the money on a cap to pay for a bunch of pass rushers, pay for a bunch of guys in the secondary, pay for a great offensive line, pay for great wide receivers. Like, you can win that way. Look at Seattle, look at Philadelphia. There's examples in recent years. There's other teams who have made the Super Bowl that way as well, even though they didn't win. Look at the Patriots. Like, you can win that way. So, that's sort of the debate. And again, you look at the Miami Dolphins, look, everyone's got a list this time of year. Every former player, ESPN, PFF, PFN, every outlet's got a list, Fox Sports, CBS Sports, NBC Sports, like the top quarterbacks in the league. And of course, for Miami, Willis, he only has 6 starts under his belt ever. He's on a team that's, most think has the worst roster in the NFL this year. He's not being voted as like a top 10 quarterback or top 15 quarterback. He's usually 20, could be 25. I saw one, I think the lowest I saw him was like 27. Most of them, he's not higher than 20, which is fair. He's got to prove himself. He's really got to prove himself. So that's kind of this Miami Dolphins quarterback room. Willis, right now is not being thought of very much, but he's going to have a golden opportunity to shut up a lot of his critics and doubters. And maybe by the end of the year, he will be looked at as a top 15, top 12 quarterback. Who knows? And that has nothing to do with wins and losses on team. It's just he plays like, if he leads this offense, well, let's be honest, not a great group of wide receivers, one superstar running back. The tight end room's a little thin. The offensive line is, we think it's going to be okay, but we don't know because Austin Jackson's always hurt. Jonah Savaiinaya never plays well. And then you got to toss in a rookie we don't know about. Like, if they score like 24 to 27 points each week or most weeks and they still lose, well, that's not his fault. He's putting up a lot of points. Maybe they just can't stop anybody. So if that's the case, you can say, you know what? Yeah, it's a real starting quarterback there. We got to fix the defense and we got to give him more weapons. He's the guy. But if they're scoring 13, 10, and they're losing, you can make excuses that the offensive line might not be great or he doesn't have weapons to throw to. Well, he's also not elevating the people around him. And then you're going to go into 2027 with more questions about your starting quarterback. So this Miami Dolphins quarterback room today in late July, Willis has a ton of questions about him. He's got a golden opportunity to prove himself. Quinn Ewers, he was a 7th-round pick who played okay in 3 starts last year. And let's not go nuts. He was okay. But again, this training camp, he's going to get a lot of time in preseason games. He'll get a lot of work in these practices. He'll get a lot of work in the joint practices. He's going to have to go out there and prove himself as well. And maybe he does take a big step, and maybe he does take a leap. We'll see. But I think he's a middle-of-the-pack number 2 quarterback. And again, then you got guys like Cam Miller, Mark Gronkowski, and who the heck knows if they end up signing Jack Plummer here to a contract. But this quarterback room overall is probably one of the worst, maybe not the worst, but it's one of the worst. I think Arizona's is worst. I think the Jets is worst. But I think Miami's probably – those are the only 2 I would say are worst. I think Cleveland, if Watson's Watson, he's great, but he hasn't been Watson in years. Sanders was okay last year. I mean, they got so many guys, it's almost tough to judge it. So I'd say they're probably slightly ahead of Miami just from a pure talent standpoint. But I think Miami's above Arizona and the Jets from a quarterback room perspective. But again, Willis can, change that narrative really, really fast if he comes out of the gate. He just plays well. Not even so much about the wins, just plays well. So that's going to be something to watch. Obviously, this season is Malik Willis. And if he does play well, what do the Dolphins do next offseason in a quarterback-rich draft? Do they chase a superstar quarterback, or they're like, you know what? He's a guy worth building around. We don't have the answers now, but like we spoke about on the podcast Wednesday, the league is changing. You don't need to chase a superstar quarterback who's going to, eventually tie up 25% of your cap and make it harder to put a team around him. Now, look, it's a nice to have, and that's called a champagne problem. No one's going to throw Pat Mahomes off a team. Yes, he's going to eat up a lot of your cap, but it makes life a lot easier, but it does make putting together a team around him a little bit trickier at times. So it's a good debate, and we'll see how this year plays out. Maybe one of these guys who's never been to a Super Bowl finally breaks through, like a Lamar, Josh Allen, or someone like that, or Prescott. Who knows? Or maybe it's one of the guys who we think who's won a couple, like Pat Mahomes or Matthew Stafford, who ends up back there. We'll see. Everyone, thank you for listening. Again, Sleeper Miami Dolphins YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Put comments in the comments below. If there's a topic you want me to talk about, leave it below. Also on Twitter at Sleeper Miami. Everyone, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again after a while.